Welcome to Tall Talk Times podcast, a podcast made by beautifully tall people for beautifully tall people. And today, Tall Talk Times member Martin Morgan joins us. Hi, Martin.
Hi, Letty. How are you?
I'm very well. Quite excited by this interview, have to say. You are
likewise.
great. So you have a height-specific job, but before we go on, tell the listeners all about that. You are also the pacer for the London Marathon, am I right?
Yeah, I'm the pacer. I'm not the pacer. There were 120 of us this year.
120
yeah,
pacers.
And of the pacers, I probably was the tallest, and of course we got a big tall flag attached to our back as well. So I'd like to think I was probably the most easy to spot.
Yeah, that's one of
what we do as a pace runner. It's sometimes confused with the guys in the black and white shirts who pace the lead runners. We're not a lead runner for the pacers. What my pacer manager does is he finds an appropriate pace which is easily comfortable within our pace to pace people to a specific target time.
Okay, and what's your specific target time?
4 hours 45 this year.
Okay, that's quicker than, I don't run. I admire people that do run. I am pretty much, all arms and legs all over the place, so I walk. But 4 hours, 45 minutes, that's pretty swift, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's a time, way off my normal time, but then because people, I think they're customers, then I'm used to that with my job, which I'll elaborate on in a minute.
Great.
People who follow me, they often say, "Oh, what's your best time at the London Marathon?" We always say it's not about us; it's all about their day. So we don't like to reveal what our comfortable pace is. But yeah, 4 hours 45 for people doing their first marathon is a pretty good target to go for.
That's excellent.
Yeah, I have to say, I stumbled on running accidentally. I mean, it wasn't my chosen sport. I was a boxer before then. I'm not only a amateur boxer. But long before the internet, I didn't really fight. I mean, I loved boxing, but I wasn't really the build for it. I'm not built to box. I'm more suitable for probably rowing or tennis.
Okay.
Or maybe even cycling. But running was something I used to enjoy as part of my boxing training. But I got into it very late in life. But anyway, yeah, it's a fun thing to do.
Great. And sorry, listeners, you don't know how tall Martin is. Martin, how tall are you?
Well, I feel a bit of a cheat here, Letty, because I'm not particularly tall, I don't feel, although I am 2 inches above the entry requirement, I believe, for Tall Talk Times social gatherings. I'm 6'4", and I have to say, I don't feel particularly tall, apart from when I mention my job. I'm reminded every single day, gosh, aren't you the perfect height for the job? And I'll hear that 3-4 times a day.
So, no, first off, Martin, 6'4" is beautifully tall, but it's because you're surrounded when you come to the meets by chaps that are taller than you, and even women when we wear heels. So really, you're not a fraud at all. You are beautifully tall at 6'4", but please, will you tell everybody about your height-specific job?
Yeah, well, I'm an estimator and fitter of blinds and curtains for John Lewis. Now, it just means, more often than not, I do still need to take a ladder in, of course I do.
Okay.
But when I go into a Georgian property or Victorian house, quite often we're tasked with doing the whole house. So we're going right from the attic right through down to the to all 3 or 4 floors. And more often than not, if I'm out there with my colleagues are scuttling up and down ladders, having to hang curtains, dress curtains, and fit the tracks. But for me, it's a perfect gift, really. It means that I can do the job a lot more swiftly. I'm just walk from side to side of the bay window or bay back and hang the curtains without a need for a ladder. It just speeds my job up. But as I say, I'm reminded every day I go into someone and say, gosh, aren't you the perfect height for the job?
Yes, you are. I believe that. I've hung curtains before. They're awfully heavy. And every advantage with your beautifully tall 6'4" self. Your manager must be pleased.
I think so. I don't know if you've not really said that, but yeah, I think so.
Some good feedback. We're memorable as well. I'm about half an inch shorter than you. But being tall, we're certainly memorable. So do you get people when you're at the London Marathon commenting on your height, especially with the flag attached?
Not really. I think at London Marathon, there's a lot of nervousness at the beginning. naturally people, they're doing it for the first time. Their mind is really on other things. I mean, maybe what happens at the London Marathon, you go along to. They don't send you your number in the post. You have to go to an exhibition at Excel and pick it up.
Okay.
And quite often there, when I man the exhibition, there's an exhibition stand there where pacers answer questions about what people have and any anxieties they may have about the running the marathon.
Oh, that's good.
A day or two after that. Yeah, and quite often then people say, "Oh, are you my pacer?" And then as soon as I say, "Yeah," they say, "Oh, fantastic! You're going to be the easiest one to spot." And so again, I am reminded that I'm taller than the average person. I don't know about you, Letty, but I find that as tall people, we're some of the worst gauges of other people's heights because I don't know. I'm not
I'm
very
awful
good
at gauging heights.
People will ask me, "Oh, how tall's your girlfriend, how tall your wife or friend?" And I can never answer that question.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. We're always. I don't know. I just think being the height we are, we're not really.
Well, I'm pretty good at spotting a chap that isn't as tall as 6'2" when they come to the meetups, because listeners, the Tall Talk Time Celebrating Heights monthly social has a minimum height requirement for women at 5'10" and for men at 6'2". And we've had all sorts. We've had chaps turning up who are 5'2" and people with very large baseball hats and stuff on. But really, we just try and protect, our little group. So we're not up for height tourists. It's purely there for tall people to socialise together. How did you feel, Martin, when you met? I think you met Nat, the co-founder, at the bar.
I did. I met Nat at the bar, and I met Nat's dad as well, and I heard
Phil.
his first
Yeah.
interview on Tall Talk Times, which was great. Yeah, I felt fine. It was a unique feeling actually to suddenly be in a room. I mean, my posture's not very good when I'm actually chatting to people socially. I often see pictures of me, say at any event, social gatherings, or at parkrun events or things like that. I quite often am on a picture, and I balk at it when I see myself leant over, listening to people or talking to people. And it was a really nice experience to come along to Tall Talk Time Social get together, and actually, as you'd even mentioned on the page, to stand proud. Honestly, it's a unique feeling. It was great, and made very welcome. And it was suddenly strange to, I race for my running club as well, and whenever I race at running clubs, you can barely see me because I'm always shunned to the back, tallest at the back. And it was weird when we had the Tall Talk Times gathering, but suddenly I was one of the guys nearer the front at 6'4". That was a unique experience for me.
And you're right though about posture. I'm literally just sitting up but better in my chair. We get so used to stooping, don't we? So we can hear people.
Yeah, that's right. It is hearing more than anything else for me. Yeah, especially the noisier the pub get. If you're in a pub setting, the noisier it gets, the more I have to lean over and listen. Yeah, that's not good for posture. No, not at all.
And it looks awful. Come on, tall people stooping. It looks poor, and we shouldn't have to. Can't we be proud? Shoulders back.
Yeah.
Martin, how on earth did you get into the London Marathon? Because it's quite hard to get into, isn't it?
It's particularly difficult to get into. Yeah, I only actually wanted to enter it once. It was just one of those bucket list things. I wanted to enter the London Marathon, just tick it off. And I did it, enjoyed it so much. I mean, I actually got a place. I lost my father in 2010.
I'm sorry.
And I thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity to get into the marathon, because I thought, well, it's one time I can get in with a charity place. So I got a place through Help the Hospices. I think they're called Hospice UK now.
Okay.
Because the hospice looked after my dad so well, I thought this is a perfect opportunity to get a charity place, because as a charity runner, you have to raise quite a lot of money. And so anyway, I did it the first year. And of course, when you've lost someone so dear to you, family members and colleagues, everybody really rallies. And so I did it that year. That was in 2011, the year after. That was my first marathon. And having done it the first year, I thought, oh, I love that experience. I really got to give it another go. I did the Brighton Marathon the following year and took a chunk of time off. And I thought, this is great. And I thought, well, I'll try and get in London again. And the official beer of London Marathon is London Pride. It's my favourite beer. So I was drinking plenty of that, and they had a promotion that if you sent in bottle tops, you got for everyone you sent in, you got a greater chance of winning a place in the marathon. And sure enough, I got a place that way.
No way.
And yeah, so I did it twice in 3 years and thought, I can't keep repeating this. I can't do charity
You're the
again.
best customer.
Yeah, you can't go back to friends and family again. London Pride may not do that competition again. And so I thought, I just thought outside the box, and I thought, hang on, they've got pace runners. And I got in touch with Runners World at the time, who used to organise the pace runners. And I said, can I be one of your pace runners? And sure enough, they took me on board, and I've done it every year since, bar the COVID years. Yeah, I've been a pacer 9 times now, which is
Nine
great.
times. Are you the
Yeah,
tallest pacer or one of the tallest?
I think so. I think I'm actually the second oldest and certainly the tallest. Yeah.
Yeah, it was when you start getting to a certain age, we're proud of our age.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I think my manager actually they want it to they're really increasing diversity. So they want more of a gender mix, and they want more ethnic diversity. I think he actually gets me in because I'm an older runner who's still capable of running a fairly fast time. So I think I score on the age side. So I'm not complaining about that.
Listeners, honestly, Martin is not ancient. We have met at the Celebrating Heights monthly social. You're not ancient, Martin.
No, I realise that.
But I understand that we're not the young runners that are coming up in the shrew. So
No, that's right.
it's great that you do that, especially with the charity fundraising for the Hospice UK for your dad.
Mm,
That's really touching. I like that. That's a lovely anecdote. Thank you for sharing.
yeah,
So apart from your curtain hanging, which is a job absolutely made for you, isn't it?
yeah.
And
Oh,
for
it's
your
fascinating. It is a fascinating job. I mean, the thing is, we go all over London. There can't be a postcode in London that I haven't worked at. I don't mean specific postcode. I mean, N21,
sure,
SE4. I think we cover every single borough. And one of the things I absolutely love about my job is we go to most of the tall buildings in London. We've been to the top floors and many of them. And the views we see over this great city is quite amazing, and
yeah, I love
it's
London.
a privilege to be able to do that. It's great.
Yeah, you get to see everywhere in your job. So what's the
Yeah.
tallest building you've been in?
We went to the 68th floor. I forget what it was called, but it was one in Canary Wharf.
Whoa.
And unbelievably, I mean, quite often we have to fit curtains and tracks, and we often can't fit the tracks in the curtains, so we have to go up the staircase. And my colleague, it was her first day. And I think because she's the only one of the female in the team, she really wanted to, prove her mettle. So she carried them up from the ground floor to the 68th floor, and yeah, all the
Wow.
way. And I actually quite like it when I get to work and I turn up and I've got to go up the steps, because I always think, well, this is a bit of cross training thrown in. I'm getting
68
paid while I'm doing it.
floors. 68
Well,
floors. That's
we normally
intense.
we normally we normally share it. One of us will go halfway up and then take over. But
But
yeah, she did it on her very first day at work.
oh, that kudos to her. But I actually get vertigo. I'm not very good at heights, which is ironic.
Yeah. Some of my colleagues are not over keen on standing next to those big drops either. I mean, obviously it's all very secure, but yeah, some of them it freaks them out. It excites me. I like it.
I wonder how many tall people do have vertigo though, because I don't think I think it's quite a rare thing for tall people.
Yeah, probably.
People are used to it. So another thing that we can both identify with is when we go to gigs, how unpopular we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think my two main interests outside of yeah, well, I don't mean outside of work. My pastime, my two main pastimes are going to gigs and going to football. And football's not so bad because at football, I follow lower league football, so
Okay.
I can normally stand, and it's not a problem. There's nobody giving me grief from behind me because I'll normally stand at the back of the stand. But when I get to a ground and it's old-fashioned seating, that is a nightmare because
Is
I
it?
just dig straight into my knees up by my ears. That's horrendous. But yeah, my main bugbear is going to gigs because I'm a big fan of music, and I always want to be down near the front. I might be even in the mosh pit if
Mosh
it's a
pit
band
time. Yeah.
appropriate time. Yeah. And honestly, Letty, the grief I get. I mean, I have to make sure I get down near the front early because you can't go down there late. Because as soon as you go down there late, people say, oh, the groans and the complaints you get
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
So I say to my mates who are not my height, I said, "Come on, we've got to go down the front." Oh, well, I don't want to go down there yet. Because, yeah, well, I've got to because I'm going to get too much. I
Grief
don't want to say
otherwise.
abuse,
Yeah.
but I do get grief. And then, yeah, it's just, it's really awful because I can't imagine anybody else in society would get that comment. People feel quite happy to just say, "Oi, mate, you should be up at the back." He said, "Well, I should be up at the back. My mate here, who's your height, he's with me." And the funny thing is, quite often at gigs, I'll get this disgruntled sort of look where I'm up there near the front. And then later on, I'll go and get a pint for me and my buddy, and I'll come back, or somebody else will go and find them, and they've come up and they've absolutely complimented me. Hey, I'm glad you were here, mate, because it was a landmark. I could find my other mate.
Right, so it changes by the time they've had a
Yeah,
couple of beers
yeah,
towards
that's
the
right.
end of the evening. Oh,
Yeah,
now they've used you as again another
yeah,
marker.
yeah. It's just strange. I mean, I don't know how other minority. Well, we're not a minority group, are we? But I don't like how people just feel perfectly comfortable to say, "Oh, mate, you should be further back." I don't think that's acceptable.
No, there's quite a few things that maybe people shouldn't say to those who are different, be it, in whichever way. But pointing out your height, pretty sure you know how tall you are on a daily basis, Martin.
Yeah,
I know, I get that. How tall are you? I don't mind the odd question if it's polite. Obviously, we're going to get it. But yeah, making you go and stand in the corner
yeah.
at a gig. You've paid.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky. I was at a gig recently with my daughter. My daughter's 16, and she wanted to go down to the front of her gig. And I mean, that was particularly difficult for me because it was a gig that was predominantly children, well, young people, my daughter's age. And the last thing I wanted to do was get in their way. But anyway, my daughter didn't have the confidence to go right forward. So anyway, I took her and a friend and said, "Just follow me." And then
Yeah.
they followed me. And then I disappeared to the side from there. But I think my daughter's already experienced. I mean, she's 5'11", and she's only 16.
Well, she's
Um,
beautifully tall. I hope you
she
remind
is,
her.
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think she's beginning to embrace it now. I did talk to her about this recently, and I was saying, how is she finding it? I mean, she's comfortable with it. I think she likes it, but she does say it's frustrating when she goes to get the clothes
Yeah,
because even though a lot of stores do the tall range, she said that when she goes into a store, they might have a tall range, but invariably the sizes are not there.
yeah,
So that's a bit of an issue for her.
yeah. Well, top tip: pre-loved, eBay, vinted. She
Mhm.
knows her size.
Right.
Yeah. So if she goes shopping, window shopping, literally, and has a few ideas of clothes that she likes or brands that she really likes, then just go home and have a look. We shouldn't have to. She should be able to go out into a shop and buy the clothes, especially at 5'11".
Mm,
But unfortunately, more and more clothing is online only now for tall ladies and gents.
mm.
So,
Well, funnily enough, you've reminded me actually. Many years ago, I used to be in graphics and illustration,
okay.
and many years ago, I don't know if you remember. Well, won't necessarily remember it because it was a high street brand specifically for men rather than women. It was a bit like Long Tall Sally, but this one was High and Mighty.
Yeah.
On it to the competition to illustrate a sales campaign for High and Mighty, and I won the competition.
Well done.
Only actually, yeah. I didn't win the main prize, but I won £50 gift voucher, which at the time, I'm going back 30 years. At the time, that was quite a lot of money. And Yeah, the strapline was, I called it High and Mighty, and I called it For the King Among Pawns. And the graphics was all related to chess game, the game of chess.
Yeah.
And anyway, having got the consolation prize, I went in with the 50 quid. And it was bizarre, actually. There was nothing there that I could fit. I ended up coming away with a load of ties and socks
Oh no,
because
why?
even at 6'4", High and Mighty, I think they started for guys 6'6" plus, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, that was nice to win that. It was fun. And I don't think they're on, they left the high street many years ago, but they
Yeah.
were nationwide ones.
They were. They were. It
They-
was High and Mighty for men and Long Tall Sally for women. Before Long
yeah.
Tall Sally was bought out, and in my opinion, the quality has plummeted. So there's a definite listings with vintage Long Tall Sally prior to buyout. I've noticed on a couple of pre-loved items.
Yeah, I know that because I used to work. I used to work in graphics, and well, as I mentioned, and we used to do the point of sale for Long Tall Sally. Yeah, and I'd go along to their meetings, and most of their management were all beautifully tall, as you like to say, Letty.
Yeah, I do like to say, because we have to own it. We can't do
Yeah,
anything about our height. We can't suddenly become shorter. So, instead of being embarrassed about it, let's try and, for, the younger people coming through, for my sons, for your daughter, why not? Why not say it's beautifully tall? Why not look on the side of positivity? So, does she have issues with shoes? Do you?
no, I'm pretty lucky actually. I'm on the limit of most standard sizes, so I could go and get jeans that are in most stores. The only thing for me is sleeves. That sometimes sleeves can be a bit of an issue. But no, I'm at the max of everything. But that's about it. I still can go to most high street stores, fortunately.
I've literally just bought a dress and the sleeves go right down to my hands. And I was running around the house saying to the boys, look, look. Oh, they're long sleeves. It's
No.
it's a really special thing. It's just why I
Yeah,
tend not to wear sleeves, because 99% of the time they're just never long enough,
sure.
regardless of where you buy from. But there are a few new brands coming through for tall gentlemen. But speaking on the last episode of the podcast about very few doing formal or workwear for the taller man.
Yeah, that's sort of something Robert E. Carnegie was talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was a very
absolutely.
good piece. I enjoyed that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. A hard act to follow, but you're doing well, Martin.
Absolutely. When I was listening to that, oh my goodness, where am I going to go with this?
Do
Just because of his sports experience.
well, yes, very lovely professional basketball, turning it into a politician, and yeah, a positive, beautifully tall man, as you
Yeah.
yourself are as well, Martin. It's nice to have you on. Do you have any advice for those gentlemen out there who aren't particularly confident with their height?
Um, you know what? I probably would have. I think I'll tell you what my tip it would be, um, particularly for younger people. I was from the days long before the internet, when I was growing up as a 14, 15-year-old. I loved boxing, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But I'm really not the build for boxing. I think nowadays, you can do all your research, just find out, put your height in, find out what is the perfect sport. It's not just basketball. But cycling was my real love, but I always thought, oh, I'm too tall to be a cyclist. Little did I realise that many years to come, obviously probably the most famous cyclist in Britain, Bradley Wiggins, is
Yes.
actually the exact same height as me.
6'4".
And if I'd known I was suited to cycling, I would have concentrated on that because that is my first love is cycling, really. But I always thought, oh, I'm too tall to cycle. So my tip would be just to find something that does suit your height. I now kick myself because I probably, like I alluded to earlier, should have focused on running, tennis, cycling. I mean, obviously, cycling is for every single frame because
Yeah.
this suits everybody.
Yeah.
But I would have looked at something that was more advantageous to being the height
You see,
that I am.
I just like
And I think that
walking.
through sport, And I think through sport, you can't, it gives you so much confidence, and it puts you in a group of like-minded people. I just think sport leads to so much well-being in your life. And I think if I was a youngster struggling to fit in or feeling awkward about my height, I think sport is a key to finding that recognition and an opportunity to excel.
Yeah, that's well said. My youngest was at cricket last night. 2.5 hours of cricket picked him up. The smile and the joy on his face. Thoroughly
Yeah.
loved it. The rest of the time,
I'm
obviously.
not, despite being a Yorkshireman, I'm not that familiar with the benefits of height in cricket. Is it a benefit?
I think for fielding, you have obviously extra reach on your arms.
Yeah.
You know, there's that. There is definitely for bowling. I know that when that ball is coming down from on high,
Sure, yeah.
it does tend to freak a few batsmen out. And
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
have that lovely, walking across the cricket field wearing their whites. They look really good. So it's
yeah,
a little bit intimidating. But
yeah, I can imagine.
really, it's all down to, as you mentioned, finding your thing.
Yeah,
And yeah, he loves his cricket, and they both do weight training. So yeah, and fencing, because that's really good for the reach, really
yeah.
good. So you have your epee on the end of a very long arm, unless somebody is short, is very determined to get in. Definite. I mean, I would have thought with the boxing as well, Martin, with the extra
Well, yeah,
reach.
what? Yeah, the only difficulty was with boxing, I was so difficult to match. And as a junior boxer, you're put in your weight category.
Okay.
So I would be boxing guys who were really short and stocky, but really stocky, big guys, short guys. And yeah, the reach did help. And but it just meant that I got so few bouts that I didn't get. Whereas guys who are much more average age, they were getting 10 or 20 fights at the time I was getting two or three.
Okay. So,
Mm.
do you think there's any advantage for cycling having longer legs?
Well, I think you do. I think there are advantages in terms of whether you're a club. I don't know. It wasn't really an avenue I did explore. I mean, I do watch Tour de France every year, and I did ride London this weekend. I think it does help. I think it does help, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be better at climbing. I don't think I'm very good at climbing, and I'm not very good at running up hills, but I'm very good at cycling down hills, very good at running down hills. So,
I, th-
but I don't think that's height specific. I think that's just more to do with my engine rather than anything else.
I can't run. I really can't run. So, the idea of running down a hill, I would probably fall over. And
Well, there's another thing that I find frustrating though. It's whenever if I do run, and I get a good time at a marathon or a half marathon. I mean, I'm much more built for 800 meters or even half marathon. I'm not really built for being a marathon runner. But whenever I do a marathon or any race, and people say, "Oh, how did you get on?" I'll tell them the time. And non-runners don't really say this. Non-runners just say, "Oh, that's a good time," or "Oh, not bad." But as soon as I speak to a non-runner, I say, "Oh, yeah, but it's a piece of cake for you," because they just think because you got long legs, it's easy.
it's not.
Whereas when I cross the line at a marathon, if I look all around me, most of the people are much shorter than me.
Uh,
Um, and it is a surprise when I see other tall runners like me near me at a marathon. We're few and far between at the front. Whereas at half marathons, at the finish line, there's lots of people my build nearby.
okay. I didn't know that
Yeah.
there was a, height specific, it would be better for half
Yeah,
marathons than.
it's only something I've noticed. I mean, I'm not an expert on that, but it's certainly something I've noticed. I mean, certainly 800 meters would have been typical for somebody 6'4", really. But I personally think that's the toughest distance of them all. It's neither a sprint nor an endurance race. So yeah,
But
difficult.
the that well, you're going to be able to run easily because you have long legs.
Yeah,
It takes more energy to move those long limbs.
exactly. Yeah.
So, do you have a specific diet when you're doing the marathon?
No, I should have. I don't take it that seriously. I mean, I run as best I can, but and I sort of look at my diet in the lead up, but not really. No.
How would you change it up if you had an opportunity to address it?
Um, I don't know. I'm just a bit of a lazy runner, really.
I'll
Let's
take
be
that.
honest. I don't like. Well, I'm too polite. What I'm trying to say is, I'll be quite often in a lead up to a marathon. I'll combine it with a holiday with friends, going to the marathon. And the last thing I want to do is start, you know, stop drinking alcohol or anything like that. I mean, I will if I was taking it particularly seriously. I'd probably have a couple of weeks without alcohol. But quite often, when you do a marathon, you might be going overseas for a marathon, and you combine it with a holiday. And the last thing you want to do is start eating too carefully. I mean, I'm not that serious. I do as best I can, but I don't take it as seriously that I'm going to change my dietary plans or stop having a beer or two.
Well, London Pride will be very happy to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And yeah, interesting about that competition. I wonder if they'll
Yeah,
bring it back because that's a wonderful way to get more people involved.
yeah. Funnily enough, they used to give a little miniature can at the end of the marathon. You get a goodie bag at the end, and they give a little miniature can, and they were finding lots of people were giving them to homeless people on the way home from the run. So they stopped doing that. They started giving a voucher instead,
Probably
because
more
I
apt.
think runners don't particularly like to drink that specific drink. They're more interested in something with a bit more carbohydrate. Um, so yeah, they started giving a voucher instead. But those days are gone now. I think the goodie bags are long gone now. It's just do the marathon and get a medal these days.
Well, that's why most people do it just for the kudos of doing the London Marathon. It will be a cold day in hell before I do it. I just admire anyone that can run. Honestly, I just walk and at a very slow pace,
Hmm.
which irritates my sons incredibly. They have this. It's got to be a meter between when they're stepping, and I'm running behind. So yeah, it is quite comical. That's why I've learned how to walk on my own, be big and brave, go and walk on your own because I can walk at my own pace, stop and look at whatever I want to do. But it's all good for the mental health as well, isn't it? It's the physical. Sport, walking, anything that gets you away from the screens, out and doing something.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So, Martin, you've spoken to us about your job and your marathon running. Where are you next doing the marathon?
I'm hoping to pace the marathon at the Yorkshire Marathon this year. That's in October. Um, yes, I'm doing that in Yorkshire, which is my home city, which is nice. I've done it many times before, but I've never actually done it as a pace runner. It's very rewarding doing it as a pace runner. You kind of somebody's here. You can be somebody's hero of the day, which is something I quite enjoy.
Yes.
Um, And then I'm hoping I've entered the ballot for London next year, so I'm hoping one of these days to get a place in the marathon anyway, so that I don't. I'll have 1 year doing London without pacing it again. Um, so it'll probably be Yorkshire in October,
Yorkshire in
um,
October.
and then London hopefully next year, either as a pacer or running it independently. And before then, I'm doing the big half, which is in September, I think.
What's that, half
That's
a marathon?
a half marathon, yeah, along much of the London Marathon route. And I seem to remember we finish on time. I forget. But anyway, I've done that a few times. We're doing that in October. No, September, sorry.
So September for the half marathon in London and October
Yeah.
for the marathon in York.
Yeah.
That's great. So yeah, lots of lots of people can see you when you do your pacing and be able to spot you at Beautifully Tall 6'4". We are
Yeah.
still standing out on the average day. Maybe not when we all get together socially.
No, I'll hopefully be at the next one. It's
But yeah, it was on the River Thames, Martin, the next one. So it'd be a nice
oh,
summertime. Have a little drink outside by the River Thames.
that'd be great.
Yeah, watch the world go by. And yeah, we've reserved an area, but we keep the location pretty tight for those on our meetup and our Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And then we also have our Instagram, So there's a link through to the Facebook group there. It's just
Yeah.
so we can get an idea of who's coming. And yeah,
Yeah.
it will be wonderful to see you and lots of other beautifully tall people. We have a kind of a good crowd, around about 20 people turning up through the course of the night, maybe a few more.
Yeah, great.
So we change the location every month. So Nat and I come up with different venues, and we're going to throw in a few extra events. We have an event coming up in Doncaster in August. And
Yeah.
no, so the Doncaster meetup in August will be axe throwing.
Mm.
Axe throwing, Martin.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's a group in London of us beautifully tall that would like to do some axe throwing down there. So I don't quite understand why all the tall people want to throw axes.
No, I didn't even know it was a thing, quite honestly. I
Yeah.
mean, now you've mentioned it, I can picture it now you've mentioned it. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll make sure that there are no casualties. And yeah, so we're getting events coming up all the time. But yeah, we have our monthly Celebrating Heights social Tall Talk Times. Next one is on the 21st of June, and that's by the River Thames.
Yeah. Sounds good.
But Martin, thanks ever so much for joining me today and talking to me about your experience in the London Marathon. And
Yeah. Thanks for that, Letty. I enjoyed that. It was great.
okay, well, thanks again to listeners. Thank you for listening. To Martin, thank you for joining me, and take care, guys.